It's a chilling thought, isn't it? A day that seems completely ordinary, but then it takes a dark turn. A mother vanishes without a trace.
Yeah, it's a story that captivated the nation back in 2019.
The Jennifer Dulos case.
Right.
And today we're going to do a deep dive into all the complexities of it.
Absolutely. And what makes this case so fascinating, so intriguing, is how it all unfolded in a seemingly idyllic Connecticut town.
New Canaan.
New Canaan. It just reminds us that even in those places we perceive as safe and secure, darkness can lurk beneath the surface.
Exactly. And we're going to be untangling a web of suspicion involving a bitter divorce.
Oh, yeah.
Secret affair, missing evidence, and a shocking suicide.
Lots to unpack here.
Are you ready to dive in?
Let's do it.
Okay, so picture this. May 24th, 2019. Jennifer Dulos, a mother of 5, disappears from her home. Her SUV is later found abandoned with signs of a struggle, and blood is discovered in her garage.
Oh, wow.
The investigation immediately zeroes in on her estranged husband, Fotis Dulos.
Right, and the focus on Fotis was immediate and understandable. I mean, they were in the middle of a very contentious divorce and a heated custody battle. There were reports of financial troubles, and there were these hints of controlling behavior in the past. And then to top it all off, Fotis wasn't exactly cooperative with the authorities.
Yeah. Adding yet another layer to this already complicated situation, Fotis was also involved with another woman.
Michelle Troconis.
They seem to have this picture-perfect life together, But, as we'll see, there were some pretty dark undercurrents there.
Right. The affair introduces a whole new set of questions and a whole new set of suspects. So was Michelle just an unwitting pawn in Fotis's game, or was she more involved than she let on? That's what the investigation had to determine.
And the evidence against Fotis was pretty damning. We're talking security footage of him dumping garbage bags that were later found to contain Jennifer's bloodstained clothing.
Wow.
And altered license plates.
Oh, my gosh.
There was blood found in a truck belonging to one of his employees. And his alibi, it was just full of holes.
The physical evidence was hard to ignore. It definitely cast some serious doubt on Fotis's claims of innocence.
And then there's Michelle. Her statements to the police, they were inconsistent. Her alibis kept changing. And she was with Fotis during that suspicious garbage bag disposal. It all seems like someone desperately trying to cover their tracks.
You're right. Those inconsistencies, those actions definitely raise red flags. It begs the question, was Michelle truly a victim of circumstance, manipulated by Fotis? Or did she play a more active role in this whole scenario?
The prosecution had a very clear theory. Fotis murdered Jennifer, and Michelle helped him cover it up. They pointed to what they called a string of coincidences connecting Michelle to the crime, arguing that it was all too much to just be chance.
Right. This coincidence argument was key to their case. The prosecution meticulously laid out each of these seemingly random events, and tried to show how improbable it would be for them to all be unconnected, especially when considered along with Michelle's other actions.
But the defense had a very different perspective. They argued that Michelle was manipulated by Fotis and had no knowledge of the murder. They offered alternative explanations for the evidence and her inconsistent statements, suggesting that she was simply terrified, confused, acting out of fear.
So the defense painted a picture of Michelle as a woman caught in this web spun by Fotis, a woman who made mistakes out of fear and panic. It was a classic he said, she said situation, and the jury had to decide who they believed.
And in a shocking verdict that sent ripples through the community, the jury sided with the prosecution.
Yes, they found Michelle guilty of conspiracy to commit murder, and that verdict rested heavily on her role in providing a false alibi for Fotis and her involvement in disposing of that evidence. It's a tragic outcome with layers of complexity.
And even with a conviction, Jennifer's body was never found. Think about that for a moment. No closure for her loved ones. No final resting place.
It's a heartbreaking detail that adds another layer of tragedy to this already devastating case.
To understand this case better, we need to rewind, go back to that fateful day, May 24th, 2019. Let's retrace the steps, examine the evidence, and explore the motivations of everyone involved.
By piecing together that day, we might get closer to understanding the circumstances surrounding Jennifer's disappearance and how this tragic situation unfolded.
So imagine a typical morning in New Canaan. Jennifer, a devoted mother, is getting her 5 children ready for school.
The normalcy of it all is what makes it so jarring. It just underscores the fact that tragedy can strike anywhere, anytime, shattering this illusion of safety and predictability.
Jennifer's nanny, Lauren Almeida, would later describe this chilling moment when she realized something was terribly wrong. She called Jennifer, and for the first time, the call went unanswered.
That unanswered call, that break-in routine, was a huge red flag. It was the first crack in that facade of normalcy, the first hint that something was really amiss.
And as the concern grew, Jennifer's SUV was discovered, abandoned in a nearby park. And the scene inside was disturbing.
Right. The state of the SUV, along with the blood found in the garage, was a clear indication that something violent had taken place. It suggested that Jennifer's life was in serious danger.
And remember, all of this is unfolding, while Fotis, the estranged husband, seems strangely detached from the crisis.
That apparent indifference, that lack of concern, was one of the first things that raised suspicions about Fotis. It contrasted so sharply with the frantic worry of Jennifer's family and friends.
And it was that very lack of concern that made investigators scrutinize Fotis's activities that day.
And that's where the security camera footage becomes a crucial piece of the puzzle. Those images captured Fotis engaging in some very suspicious behavior, dumping those bags that would later be linked to the crime scene.
And that, my friend, is just the beginning of this tangled web. We'll pick up right here on the next episode of The Deep Dive as we try to untangle this web even further.
Yeah, those security camera images of Fotis dumping those garbage bags, they were a turning point in the investigation. It was no longer just suspicion. There was this visual record of him, getting rid of something. And the contents of those bags were incredibly incriminating.
Yeah, it was like a scene straight out of a crime show.
Oh, yeah.
Zip ties stained with Jennifer's blood, a shirt in her size also with blood on it, cleaning supplies.
Yeah.
It's chilling.
And then you can't forget about those altered license plates that were found in that same area. It just suggests a deliberate attempt to avoid detection.
Right. But even with all of that, they still hadn't found Jennifer's body.
Right.
So they couldn't charge Fotis with murder.
Right.
Instead, they arrested him and Michelle on charges of tampering with evidence and hindering prosecution.
It was a strategic move by the prosecution. Those charges allowed them to secure Fotis and Michelle while they continued to build a stronger case, hoping to uncover more evidence or perhaps even get a confession.
But that's not quite how it played out, is it?
No.
The case took an even darker turn. Fotis attempted suicide right before he was due back in court for those charges.
Yes, and tragically, he later died from carbon monoxide poisoning. It was just a dramatic turn of events, and you have to wonder what went through his mind in those final moments. Did he take the secrets of what happened to Jennifer to his grave? It's a question that continues to haunt this case.
Yeah. With Fotis gone, the focus shifted intensely to Michelle. She was now facing conspiracy to commit murder charges. And the prosecution's case, it hinged largely on those 3 interviews she gave to the police.
Right. Those interviews, they were just full of inconsistencies. Like, remember what she said about the shower that morning? At first, she said that she and Fotis showered together, but then later she changed her story and claimed she hadn't seen him at all that morning.
And then there was that whole thing with the phone call. Fotis had left his phone at home, and someone answered it while he was supposedly driving to Jennifer's house. The prosecution argued that it was Michelle who answered, creating a false alibi for Fotis.
Right. That phone call, it became a central point of contention.
Yeah.
Was it part of a premeditated plan to mislead investigators, or was there, a more innocent explanation? The jury had to grapple with that.
Yeah. And don't forget about those alibi scripts that were found at Fotis's house. The prosecution used those to argue that Fotis and Michelle, they had coordinated their stories to try to cover their tracks.
The existence of those scripts was a significant blow to the defense's case. It cast serious doubt on Michelle's claims that she was unaware of any wrongdoing. I mean, why would you need a script if you have nothing to hide, right?
Right. And then we had the testimony from Pavlo Gumini, the employee who owned that red Tacoma truck.
Oh, right.
His statements were pretty damaging to Michelle's case.
They were. Pavlo's testimony linked Michelle directly to the disposal of evidence. He said that Fotis had told him that Michelle had the keys to the Tacoma, the same truck that was found to have traces of Jennifer's blood.
And remember that chilling comment Michelle allegedly made about wanting to bury Jennifer next to the family dog.
Yeah, it was brought up during the trial. And while that comment could be interpreted in a number of ways, it certainly didn't help Michelle's case. It just fed into the prosecution's narrative that she harbored some animosity towards Jennifer.
Despite all of this, Michelle's defense team fought hard. They argued that she was a victim of Fotis's manipulation, a scared and confused woman who made mistakes out of fear and was pressured into following his lead.
They tried to paint this picture of Michelle as a naive and easily manipulated woman, someone who was, way over her head. They even brought in experts on memory and language to back up their claims.
But in the end, the jury wasn't convinced.
No.
They found Michelle guilty of conspiracy to commit murder.
It was a verdict that shocked many. Despite the lack of a body and Fotis' suicide, the prosecution was able to present a compelling enough case to convince the jury that Michelle was more than just a pawn in Fotis' deadly game.
It's a truly tragic story. And at the heart of it all remains that question that's haunted this case from the very beginning.
Yeah.
What really happened to Jennifer Dulos?
That question lingers, even with a conviction.
And it's a question that may never have a definitive answer. Fotis is gone. He took whatever secrets he had with him. And Michelle, while convicted, she still maintains her innocence. It leaves us with this unsettling feeling of incompleteness.
Yeah, you're right. Without a body, it's incredibly difficult to reconstruct the exact sequence of events or definitively determine each person's role. We're left piecing together this puzzle with missing pieces, relying on circumstantial evidence and often, conflicting accounts.
Right. And yet, even with those missing pieces, the evidence that was presented, the bloodstains, the security footage, those inconsistent statements, it all points to a very, very dark and disturbing story.
Well, there's no escaping the fact that a terrible crime took place. A mother vanished, leaving behind 5 children, and a family just shattered by grief and uncertainty.
And throughout this whole ordeal, Jennifer's family has shown just incredible strength and resilience. They've never given up hope of finding her and bringing her home.
Their determination is truly inspiring. They've channeled their pain and frustration into advocacy, keeping Jennifer's memory alive and pushing for answers. It speaks volumes about their love for her and their commitment to justice.
It's heartbreaking to think that Jennifer's children have had to grow up without their mother, living with this cloud of mystery and unanswered questions. The emotional toll on them, it's just unimaginable.
This case is a stark reminder of how the impact of violence extends far beyond the immediate victims. The ripples of trauma affect families, communities, and even those who, follow the case from afar.
It's a story that captured the attention of the entire nation, generated countless news headlines, and sparked endless speculation.
Well, there's something about the mystery surrounding Jennifer's disappearance, the unanswered questions, the search for truth that draws people in, right? We're left grappling with the darkness that can exist even in seemingly perfect lives, in those idyllic communities that we perceive as safe and untouchable.
Yeah, it's a jarring reminder that even in the most affluent neighborhoods, behind closed doors, there can be secrets, lies, and a potential for violence that can shatter lives in an instant.
And it underscores the importance of awareness. We need to pay attention to red flags, speak up for those who might be vulnerable, and seek help when relationships become toxic or dangerous. We can't afford to turn a blind eye to those warning signs, hoping that things will just work themselves out.
This has been a heavy deep dive, no doubt, but it's a story that needs to be told. Jennifer Dulos deserves to be remembered, and her case serves as a powerful reminder of just the complexities of human nature. It highlights our capacity for love and loyalty, but also for deceit, manipulation, and violence.
It's a case that stays with you long after you've heard all the details. It prompts reflection and perhaps a renewed appreciation for the fragility of life. It encourages us to cherish those we love, to value open communication and healthy relationships, and to recognize that even in the darkest of times, hope and resilience can persevere.
We hope this deep dive into the Jennifer Dulos case has given you a better understanding of its intricacies and complexities. It's a story that continues to unfold, and we encourage you to stay informed and engaged. And remember, there are resources available for those who are struggling in their own relationships, and it's never too late to seek help or reach out for support.
If you found this deep dive insightful, we encourage you to explore further. There are documentaries, articles, and other podcasts dedicated to this case, each offering unique perspectives and analysis. Don't be afraid to delve deeper, to question, to analyze, and to form your own conclusions.
And as always, we encourage you to stay curious and keep digging. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive. We'll be back soon with another captivating story and insightful analysis. Until then, stay safe and keep exploring.